This week's parsha is the most important parsha in the entire Torah. You may ask, why is this week's parsha the most important in the entire Torah? Well, let me tell you. Parsha Bo continues the story of the Exodus from Egypt. We have locust, darkness, the death of the firstborn at the hands of Hashem, not by an angel, not by a seraph. We have the first mitzvah given to the nation of Israel, blood on doorposts, the laws of the Passover offering, the mitzvah of matzah, the first Seder, the passing over of Jewish homes, the Egyptians giving the Israelites gold, and the moment we've all been eagerly awaiting, Hashem taking the Jews out of Egypt. But none of that is why this is the most important parsha in the Torah. The reason this is the most important parsha is because it explains the real purpose behind plagues. We all know there are 10 plagues. The human brain likes finding patterns and things, and many different ways to group these 10 plagues have been offered by our sages. Rabbi Yehuda, famously in our Haggadah, groups them into groups of 3, 3, and 4 as a mnemonic device. Others have put forth the idea that there's 3 groups of 3 plagues each, with each group following the same pattern, and the 10th plague being on its own. Another option would be to group the first of 7 plagues together, and then the final 3 plagues together. So why group it that way? Well, the division of the parsha seems to back this up. Last week's parsha had 7 plagues. This week's parsha has got 3 plagues. But there's also an interesting thematic connection we need to explore. What do these last 3 plagues have in common? Locust, darkness, and the death of the firstborn. On the surface, not much. But if we look at the language used to describe the plagues, something interesting pops out. The 8th plague says, locusts will cover the earth so that it'll not be possible to see. And the 9th plague says, there was a thick darkness in all of Egypt so that the people could not see. So what do these 2 plagues have in common? They're both about not being able to see. They're both about lack of light, about darkness. And what about the 10th plague? The 10th plague, the death of the firstborn, well, it happens at midnight, the darkest part of the night. All 3 of the last 3 plagues, at their core, are about a lack of light. Okay, that's cool, but why does that matter? Well, there's one word early in the parsha that's easy to miss and hard to properly translate that's critical to understanding this. Chapter 10, verse 10. After Moshe delivers a line about going out with our young and our old and our sons and our daughters, Pharaoh responds, let Hashem be with you, and I will let you go with your little ones, for Ra'ah is before you. I left that word Ra'ah untranslated. To understand what it means, we need to look at Rashi, which will confuse matters more, and then we'll finally clear everything up. Rashi says, I have heard a midrashic explanation. There's a certain star, the name of which is Ra'ah. Consequently, when Israel sinned by worshiping the calf and the Holy One, blessed be He, intended to kill them, Moses said, wherefore should the Egyptians speak and say, He brought them forth together with Ra'ah? I told you that Rashi was going to actually confuse things more. Sometimes, in order to understand Torah or Rashi, you need a piece of information that the Torah doesn't give us. In this case, we need to understand a little bit of Egyptian mythology. In Egyptian mythology, what is Ra'ah, or Ra? Ra is the sun god. Ra was the most powerful of their god, and the pharaohs were descended from Ra. What Rashi was saying is that when the Jews sin with the golden calf and Hashem wants to wipe them out, Moshe basically says, so what's tomorrow's headline going to be if that happens? It's not going to be that Hashem took the Jews out of Egypt only to change his mind and kill them when they eventually sinned. The headline is going to be that Ra, the Egyptian sun god, was more powerful than Hashem, and it was Ra that took the Jews out of Egypt in order to kill them. Now let's go back to our question of what these last 3 plagues have in common. They're all about darkness. They're all about the absence of sun. They're all about showing that Ra is powerless, that Pharaoh, the son of Ra, is powerless, that there's nothing but Hashem. The first of 7 plagues were about punishment, physical and economic. But these last 3 are there to tear down Egyptian society. And you do that by going after Ra. That's why it's not until the first of these final three plagues that the Egyptian society begins crumbling. After the plague of the locust, we read, and Pharaoh's servants have said to him, how long shall this man be a snare for us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Do you not know that Egypt is lost? The entire society knows it's over. The social structures have broken down so much that the servants of Pharaoh are speaking up to him. It's over, but Pharaoh won't admit it. So we still need 2 more plagues directed at Pharaoh, the son of Ra. Hashem could have taken the Jews out of Egypt at any time by just snapping his anthropomorphic fingers. 10 plagues weren't required for that. The plagues were needed to tear down the evils of Egyptian society and plant the seed of a new social order based on service of Hashem. That's one reason why this is the most important parsha in the Torah, but the other reason is that the most important piece of Torah is whatever piece of Torah you have in front of you right now. Shabbat Shalom and Am Yisroel Chai.